order. We do have a few people who are just have other things that we need to do this morning. On our agenda, just as you take a look, I know I need to add 2 things to new business. So 7.5, just the city volunteer invite. And 7.6, Minister Madhu's visit on the 25th. 4.1, the key performance indicator presentation will be delayed until September. In your electronic copies is the Alberta Policing Advisory Board report. We did put them in your paper copies. It's quite long. Anything else on agenda?
The Alberta Policing for
8.1. Thanks. That's city volunteer. There's an invitation, city volunteer awards, maybe, or dinner.
Sorry, Chair, what did you say was not included the Alberta Policing report?
Yeah. The quarter, like the report on governance. Oh, we didn't print that package. It's in your electronic package. Anything else anyone sees?
Chair, Minister Madhu visit very.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I didn't. Thanks, Jennifer. Sorry.
Actually, you guys put it in.
Oh, did we? Oh, good.
I'm like, okay, that sounds familiar, but okay.
Just full of people. Diane, are you going to be attending that?
The minister's visit there in on next week?
Yes.
Yes, I am there in Matt's absence.
Okay, great. I'd ask for that. So.
Thank you.
Chair, can we add? I should have finished. We have a discussion with regard to that.
Okay. 7.6, land acknowledgement. All right, so I'll take a motion to adopt the minutes. There's nothing else. Elaine?
Chair.
All in favor? Carried. Minutes from June 17th. Any notations, any edits? Got a motion to approve. Everyone in favor? Carried. I think, can we move your presentation to after reports? Okay. With reports, Chief, why don't you go ahead? I just want to get to budget before Sonia and Elaine have to leave, and Brad.
Sure. It's really quick. But just on the budget, for July, we should be at 50% used. We're at 47%, so sitting all right there. Professional standards, we did early in July have 2 individuals that brought forward complaints. However, they have since rescinded. And actually, for my report in your package, there's a report for the month of June and one for the month of July, just because we missed our July meeting. So there's first 2 months worth of activities updates. With those 2 complaints I just referenced, I believe PCD did receive a call from one of those individuals. But as I say, that person has since recanted their complaint. We did actually conduct a full investigation on the incident just to ensure that the complaint came back to later date. We could show that we had checked into the allegation on the job set, and at the end of the day, we didn't find any members. So, and the other individual is complaining basically their vehicle was seized, so we gave them the proper process to contest the members' actions and decisions for recovering his vehicle and then send it. So we're getting the complaints. The other stuff I have updated you on, the only additional stuff, we have hired or extended offer letters to fill 2 of our vacant positions, and 2 new members will be starting October 1st. That is it, unless anyone has any questions on the specifics.
One question on the budget there. July 1st should be at 50%, actuals at 47, and then August 1st should be at 58. We're now at 44.
Correct.
Is that because of the fire, the vehicle, or actuals at 44% used or 46%? I'm just wondering how we
44% used. We should be at 58% used.
Yeah, I'm just
What the reason we're probably seeing that
2% different.
increased threat is every month we've still got members off on WCB. Their wages aren't getting paid, so that's a significant part of the budget. So every month that we experience savings on that end, it reflects positively on. And it also depends on the day of the week that you run this report. Money coming in, money going out.
No, just curious as how we go a month and getting room in the budget. That usually doesn't happen.
Yeah,
All good.
it's all on that wage line. So,
Commissioner Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. For information, maybe a reflection on that area. When did Sergeant Christian's medical begin?
July of
Thanks.
No further questions for the chief. SRO report, of course, nothing reported for the last few months. PCB,
That's me.
Yeah.
As Lauren said, there were no complaints. When I responded to Jennifer, I said it was superior, but I didn't realize it was not supposed to be. So
Right.
there were in fact 2 from the fire month, but they were not resolved. There was one other complaint, not a complaint, a lady called last week, irate, but she decided not to have a complaint because of my actions. And so that's unrelated to the one from July. But it didn't go anywhere, didn't resolve anything, and she did come down. So the thing from that. And that is that there was nothing else. Report.
And with that one, the same individual had contacted us
Yes.
directly and did want to pursue it. And we pursued it. Dismiss this. Video speaks for itself.
so body video is a good thing. My report then, of course, we all had a nice month of July off, so simply has been checking in with the chief on a monthly basis still, and of course our budget meeting last week. Judy, not your formal reporting time, but
No, I've got nothing to report at this time. I did
And-
shoot off an email actually just to find out what is happening with the government training, online training. So
Okay,
I'll let everyone know what they say.
we'll be holding our breath.
Yeah.
Councillor Conick, you're up.
Reports there. I want to speak to Bradley.
Okay. I see video lottery terminals are returning. Yeah. Was responsible animal listed, was that chickens?
No, it was just, we were looking at reclassifying, just cleaning up that while. We did making things that were kind of vicious animals and things like that. No, you can still have chickens. Cool.
Okay. So that's it for reports. So take a motion to accept reports. Cam, all in favor? I am jumping our budget, our things all around. I wouldn't mind just moving straight to the budget process, just again, just while we have all commissioners available. Our budget committee met last week on the 10th and reviewed the budget. We felt that the numbers that were drafted by the chief it just doesn't seem quite as contentious this year. We feel like we're in pretty good shape. I don't know, maybe Ruben, if you can tell us, when we were meeting last week, we were expecting the city might give us our numbers this week. Have we got that?
So the plan increase in tax, 2.7, so we CPI, that's it. There's going to be an additional 1% road tax on top. Strictly just for roads, there's to look after the infrastructure. But the actual, so it's 2.7 plus 1, but never really we were concerned with this 2.7. And then COLA, we haven't figured out yet. More than likely won't be 2.7. Probably. And 2. Because we ran through our numbers on Monday. If we do everything that everyone wants, we're looking at almost a 6%. A lot of that is wages, of course. But half of that is wages, not more. So hence the reason COLA would be this honest. I can tell you it's 2.7 for sure. That's the target. That's the target that we need to
For the tax.
for the target. But that's it. There's no extra no.
Okay, so based on that, I think our budget's in decent shape.
Is, and Diane, I'll throw this back to you to make sure my interpretation is correct, but when I met with CAO County last week, we talked about budget targets as well. So we were looking at projected goal around 2.7%, but then there's also a factor for community growth. So it's not 2.7 specific. So community growth, it's still having that target for a tax increase. Community growth can still achieve that 2.7%. But when we're budgeting with community growth, it gives us a little bit more wiggle room. So he gave me a figure of 4.1%, combining COLA and community growth that would hopefully, and this is a little bit out of my realm, would hopefully calculate back to council within that 2.7 tax percent increase target that that would keep the city on target as well. Is that explanation or description of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the things that our CAO Gowdy has said is policing does have that community growth factor to it. So if you're in good shape at the 2.7 right now and you have some community growth in there, I think that would be good.
When we. I'll let Ray finish.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, so when we get into the budget a little bit more, the number we end up with at the end of reviewing the budget proposal and that the committee reviewed, we were at COLA plus 1%, that would bring us in at about 3.7% overall, and that's over not at the 4.1, we're actually under it. Dollar wise, we are right on target. So we can have our budget discussions and I can get into more detail on that. If there's any changes to be made, discuss those further as well.
Eli,
Chair, what was community growth project that?
It
what's that?
projected at 2% per year. I don't know what the actual is, but the target the CAO is 4.1% over our last year's expenses.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time with the lighting. Can I?
Oh, yes, I can, sorry.
Sorry.
When I meant to turn that back on. I'll adjust it when we.
Thank you. Okay. All right, I will, Chief, because you've got your explanation kind of down pat, so I'm gonna let you carry that if you would like. I can go through it myself. If you would. I'll let you go ahead. I mean, ultimately, you're the one who we're relying on to talk about what is projected.
So everyone's got a budget department summary in front of them. So this summary breaks out the difference between expenses between last year and then the post for 2022, but it doesn't show you is the net increase. So when we get to the net increase, the tax supported portion, the numbers are a little bit different. And when I talk about our target numbers, I'm talking about that net increase at the end of the day. And then we've got our projections for the next 3 years. Actually, some will show right till 2026, but I would ignore anything past 2024. So some of the impacts that we have on this budget, we had our police members ratify a new contract for 2021 to 2025. And in 2022, they will experience a 2% increase in wages. Our support staff, we budgeted at 2.7% projected COLA. If there's changes to what the city approves at the end of the day, if they go down to 4.1, then that would be for us on our budget a reduced number. But Ruben was saying, did you say 2.1 is what you're potentially looking for?
I suggest,
Oh, okay.
but it could be more.
Right. So if that number goes down and our support staff experiences a lower than 2.7% increase, then that'll reflect positively on the budget. So our total increase in wages and benefits actually works out to 138,712 for both members and support staff.
And just to clarify that, no increase in numbers of staff or the level of members.
Correct. No additional positions on either side. So 0 new members, 0 new support staff. Some of the other items that are a little more costly for us, going into next year, we're scheduled for new cell phone replacements. So there's $10,000 there. Increase in our transfer type T hardware replacements, 15,000. That brings that total transfer number up to about 79,000 overall. We're going to add a added transfer to capital reserve for mandatory NG 911 upgrades that will be mandatory by 2024. So over the next 3 years, our estimated cost is going to be 120,000. So starting in 2022, we're going to start transferring $40,000 per year to pay for this cost that we have to implement. Our portable radios requires upgrades or replacement, which is a $40,000 expense. This item here, we just found out yesterday that there is a possible upgrade that may be coming out soon. If that comes through, then that item this budget be left, but we're still waiting for that answer. And then our transfer to city administration services went up $9,000. And then on our revenue stream, we removed $20,000 for individual check stock grants, but on our expense line, we removed $20,000 of overtime that was earmarked for those check stocks. So that was another thing. So 0 impact on the budget. In our expense line, client revenues reduced by 65,000, which is probably more in line with our experience over COVID. It's very hard to gauge where those revenues are going to fall. We're pretty sure this year we're going to be significantly short of our budget targets. We are seeing that line increase, but we haven't hit our target for a few years even prior to COVID. So maybe it's good to what I expect. Realistic. As I said, we moved our check stop grant. We are taking on more CPO monitoring contracts, so projected increase of $40,000 in revenues for that service. Because of the increased wage costs for our members, our increased alert wage recovery, we've experienced about $20,000 more from alert. And then something that's new that we have not experienced before is as a secondary PSAT, we will be eligible for 911 grant funding moving forward, and we anticipate that that revenue will be about $121,000 per year. Some of that money is earmarked for the NG 911 upgrades that I spoke about, but it should be, because we don't have to experience any of those costs until 2024. That's basically where the $40,000 transfer per year is coming from. But additional revenues within that will help us out. And then also on our SRO wage recovery, on that line, we see about $15,000 in increased revenues from our funding, both school division and county.
And that just reflects increase in wage costs.
So as a committee, we went through this fairly thoroughly with the chief and at our August 10th meeting. The committee did give approval. So when we're here as a group for permission, we are looking to formally approve the budget, but that doesn't mean that we're not still discussing it. So discussions are still open. One of the things that I wondered about a little bit, Chief, just as you're giving your summary, and I'm taking notes a lot for the fact that I'll be presenting this to council too, just to keep my notes up. But we did set that traffic position up in particular to try to increase fine revenue. And I have no problem with our budget reducing fine revenue because what we're collecting isn't necessarily reflective of what we might be issuing. But I just wanted to just kind of check in with you on that, whether you figure that traffic safety position still needs support.
If we didn't have that position, I would be on the government. Probably by $165,000.
Chair, should I have a motion to-
I think I'm still open for questions yet. I know we can always question after the motion, but Ruben, yeah.
Sorry, and maybe Diane can, I know I had to leave early at the Monday meeting. I guess I just struggle on with your 4.1. Like, I don't know, I can't speak to the conversation you had now. But if every other city department is at 2.7, I don't know how it is that when I go here. Like, I don't know, Diane, was there no talk of additional percentage in terms of growth? Are we just talking about the police department on its own? Like, I just know, I fear that if every other department's at 2.7 and our numbers come in higher, that there's going to be questions for council, unless I'm missing something.
No, thank you, Councillor Connick. You're right. Like at council, we did just talk overall in terms of the entire organization, I believe, for what the increase for like the budget could potentially be at. Again, it was just discussion. It hasn't been passed at that as of yet. I know CAO Gowdy always says that there's certain position or certain departments that, such as the police service, that does, when their increase of budget goes up, it should include the community growth with it. Now, it hasn't been 100% decided on for this year as of yet, but that's a starting point that we usually start at.
The other part of that equation is when you increase your budget by 2.7%, that accounts for so much money in the bucket. But community growth, you're also getting additional tax revenues that so your overall percentage at the end of the day is where tax increase can remain at 2.7. You've got other revenue streams to support that.
And I'm not disputing that, but we're projecting only 50,000 to 75,000. That's overall. That's not mistake. So that's struggle a little bit counting the numbers and money that may or may not be as much as people today.
Another question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Will we know whether or not the 1% or 2.7% for total essentially is good? Like, when are we gonna know that number for sure? Before we present to council?
Don't know if we'll know before we go to council or before they present. You think we'll have it by then, Diane, or?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that, if that was directed to me.
Sorry, I was directing it to.
Oh.
Karen was looking for whether or not we would know a hard number on COLA prior to when police presents to council. I don't think we will. We might. I don't know. I just looking for your confirmation that if you get, like your.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Mr. Conick. I really am having a hard time hearing you.
Anyways, I don't think we'll get a hard number. I'm just trying to think of the council meetings we have, because this year's a little bit wacky. Right?
The election.
We have the election, we're not going to be including the final budget prior to the election. Well, it typically happens in November, December anyways.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a hard number on COLA prior to the election, but I'm not 100% sure.
Our usual timeline for that is presentations up into October for like outside committees and the external groups and stuff like that. And then the workshop is usually the end of October for council to go through line by line on the actual organizational budget as well. So Councillor Conick is very accurate. It could be after the election when we find some hard numbers.
Yeah, so our budget could fluctuate almost 2% then, essentially,
It could.
depending on where it goes.
But again, it's just the one writer. It's just way it's our other numbers that we have.
Great. But it seems that wages are significant change. So yeah.
And just when it takes up 77% of your budget.
Yeah,
The wages are not going to change on the foreign member side
right.
because those are already determined for the next 5 years. If COLA is assessed and wage increases for support staff come in at 2.1, we're looking at a 0.6% budgetary change on probably on about $1 million. So it could have an impact. It may.
60 grand roughly, like everyone was saying, 50 to 75 grand is what we're planning.
Or $6 grand.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
0.6 of the budget
The
of the increase.
of the increase for support staff
Oh,
would be 6,000. So it would help. And I think at the budget committee, we did have discussion about presenting it at 3.7. And if council or the city comes back to us saying we have to adjust, then we would make the adjustments at that time.
great.
I think that was the general feel is we're presenting a budget that's reasonably fiscally conservative in the sense that our reserves are aggressive. It's conservative and aggressive in the same sentence, but we're being incredibly responsible about making sure our reserves are in much better position than they have in the last years. And so I think we're just trying to say this is realistically what we see to be safe, knowing that we never want to be able to get into our reserves. Should new council be elected and have a slash and burn mentality, then all of us are going to be going back to our budget. So we'll have to
See what comes.
we'll have to address it. So I think we might as well ask for what we think is reasonable first, and then address any changes that we have after the change.
And from 2.7 to what our ask is currently, for 1% or about $52,000 part. So 52,000, even 6,000 for wages, and a couple of other areas in our transfers. We have some wiggle room to come in, I think, on target, whatever that target is. And unfortunately, we just don't have a clear target other than the figures that city administration gave us to be able to prepare for this presentation. So.
And then I think maybe one other item is we still are doing the admin support transfer. It's increased by 9,000. So that's always something that we don't have any control over. It's something that we challenged a lot more last year. And at this point in time, my understanding is that between the chief and city financial, that there's still work going on accounting for those funds, but things are looking a little bit more positive in terms of the services that we're receiving in return. So at this stage, my thought from the commission's point of view is that we let that relationship continue to flourish and what comes with that. Any other thoughts or discussions? I might look back to Commissioner Larson, who had a motion and thought you were
To accept the budget as presented.
any further discussion on that matter?
Just further to your last comments, the fact that we are maintaining that relationship with the positive vibe from council. The idea of getting our own IT person is never. The fact that we're now looking to accommodate or have the IT do more, and we're making better arrangements. And that's. So that's
I know both sides, but from that communication too.
And just one other comment, I had on budget. So if the budget were to be approved as presented to the commission today, that would put us at $263 per capita for leasing costs in the home, which is still very desirable across the province. Other municipalities of our size with municipal services are in the 272 to 278 range per capita. So we still continue to maintain a desirable per capita cost for the service.
and those numbers, absolutely.
And they are in that summary.
The chair is that saying that 272 to 278 is the average across the province?
Say municipal services.
Yes,
The RCMP numbers, it's a little hard to calculate.
not interested in that.
Yeah.
Apples to apples.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Myself, Judy, we got you, and Sonia, I think, has had to step out. Okay. All in favor, but if you'll note to the answer, so Mr. Vice, I get the vote. That is budget. Thank you, everybody. I do know that there are people who have to run off, so if we go back to our agenda, I will go back, and I think that we should go back to the beginning. We're at item 4.2. The chief is going to present just some information just to show you that some of the money that we're spending on training and all the things that we do so that we're ready and if things happen are necessary.
Yeah, I believe everybody, well, potentially everybody, I know the vast majority anyway, saw a video going around through various avenues, not as much on social media, I don't think, but being shared from individual to individual.
Might have to enlighten those of us who
Okay,
live under a cloud.
you're going to get very enlightened today. You will see the video.
Oh, okay.
So what, there's an incident on July 5th where we had a taser deployment on an individual that was naked in the streets, showing some aggressive behaviors. And after the incident, video started circulating, which was a really good awakening because as we know in our current social climate that these videos do get out there and people have opinions on the police behaviors or accountability or oversight, our techniques. And it was actually funny, shortly after this, with Chair Gish, and even her perception of what she heard was different than what actually happen, which changes the person's opinion of what they think of the police's reaction. So, so I thought I would go through this incident, and the videos are graphic, but there are some language. The two videos that I have, one of an in-car video just to show you the time from when we get called to when we get there to speak to our dispatch, and how having our own dispatch, how we can get on scene so much quicker than we could before in our previous experience, which would have changed this dynamic altogether. But then also with our training, every member has to be certified to use a it's called CEW, directed entry weapon, commonly known as the taser. We have to annually certify on that weapon system, but then also the process after the fact. And one thing that in this incident really stood out to me is our members were aware of all the peripheral factors as they're going through this call. Before they even got on scene, they're ready to react. And that comes from their training and react appropriately. They actually had EMS responding to the scene because there's a something called excited learning. The person is high on drugs, in a very excited state. When they get into an altercation with police, we've had fatalities, and then we have fatality investigation. But it's very easy for somebody to die in these types of circumstances when they get into this excited state that's drug-induced. Many times they have a sudden heart attack and die. And actually, in this case, the individual, had EMS not been there, I'm fairly confident there's a strong likelihood they would have died before the end of the day. So through the training, our members responding very appropriately. It speaks to why we have to train, keep it up, pay for the training, and sometimes we don't realize why we do what we do, why we have the equipment we have, why we have the radio systems we have, the communication pieces, all of those items. So I just thought this was a prime example of doing the scenario. Video speaks for itself, but also after we have a use of force incident where the taser is deployed, firearms deployed, pepper spray, or there's use of force where somebody is injured, I order a review. These are standard practice for us now and have been for the last, well, since I've been here. So these reviews are done and we review all of the various aspects of the incident. We identify any omissions, training needs, corrective actions that need to be taken, but we also review what went well. And in this situation, everything did work well. The only thing that didn't work well is you'll notice on our in-car video system, the audio wasn't. So we identify that, fix it, and move on. So, but it does bring it all together. And as far as accountability and oversight, these things are happening. And had we not complained about this, we would have been put to rest. So
as far as this video, is this body cam?
no, we don't have body cams, but
That's
there's
probably
in-car video. And these are videos that were supplied by people that witnessed the incident, applied directly to us, but they're the same videos that I believe you all seen. I'll actually just show the police video, and then I'll show one that's a little bit better quality. Diane and Judy, I'm going to try and share the screen here, so hopefully this all goes well. Bear with me.
Chief, when you do the reviews, do you review without members or just members involved? And that's like a learning training practice for their crews?
The review, Review is taken on by, we've got officer safety and use of force instructors. So they review the incident.
Yeah.
Their results are shared with the individuals, the members. And then we apply what we learned from the incident to our annual training.
Gotcha. Change custom files to all files.
Oh, nice to have an IT guy in the room. Thank you, Brad. There we go.
Amazing how easy it is to be a god, hey, Brad. Custom files, all files.
What do you like?
The savior, may God make what the right word, but a savior.
This is, Judy, can you see on your screen a 4.2 police in-car video? Okay,
No, I can't.
Not the video, but just a notice.
I noticed that it's on there that I'm sharing.
You see, nope. Action. Oh, now I see something.
We'll get this, yeah.
Yeah, I got it now.
Okay, so here we just received a call. The member, Constable Gerard, is responding to the call. So he's just received this. So this is from inside the police car, and this one doesn't have any sound, unfortunately.
Middle of the day.
Yep,
As you can see that.
actually,
Yeah,
right,
I'm doing something in the middle of the night.
no, it's right around noon, so these calls can come in any time of day. This is actually,
Impressive response. See my house right there, kind of blurry?
Are you the guy in the video? Is that what you're trying to tell?
No, kind of watched it happen. Or the after.
or no, sorry, this was right at,
I see the weather wasn't as nice as where I was in July.
we're 52 seconds into this, the time the call was received.
Yeah, it'd still be on hold if that you're dispatch. Please hold.
Was that a domestic?
The complaint is an individual running naked in the streets, attacking children in the playground and confronting neighbors. Let's see the actual tasering,
It came pretty quick.
but it's over. So he was actually on scene for, so from the time the call came in at minute 32 seconds. So minute and 32 in this incident. So 14 seconds, we're on scene, and this incident basically been resolved. I'll give you another angle view. But had the member not been aware of the type of call he's going to and the behaviors of the individual being relayed through our dispatch to them, probably would have got out of his car, not prepared for what was to come, and probably would have got into a physical struggle with this individual. So
It's it.
For both parties.
for
Yeah.
both sides, absolutely, because the member recognized signs and got EMS rolling now, because EMS wasn't on scene as soon as they were. Those delays also are problematic. These neighbors are trying to update, running on. You can hear the compassion in the witness's voices as they laugh, but the member, so this is the interesting part is, I'm not sure what you guys heard.
I thought he said, I am done.
I heard when I saw.
I said I am not, and want to get on the ground, I am not.
And
Okay,
some
yeah.
heard, I give up. So all of those perceptions, but he was saying, I am God. And that's how quickly this happens. The taser is very effective. With a naked person, it's gonna make contact. Sometimes with winter clothing, sometimes those prongs don't make contact and you have to be prepared to switch to another technique. But,
So do you have to? Can you just extend that? Or do
well,
you
it
have to
shoots the
get your
taser
skin?
prongs.
What shoot?
So the taser has a cartridge and it has two prongs that are on the ones we use for 15-foot cords on it. They're just little short.
The minimum safe distance is 60 feet. From the
Yes,
base.
yes. Unless we use the 20-foot prongs, but what happens is as they extend, the farther away the subject is, the farther those prongs extend, because you actually want a little bit of distance between them. So where the prongs hit this individual was up in the shoulder and then inches away from where you would have really regretted getting hit. But the farther you are away, the more that spread and potentially a miss. But, this was a very effective.
Would that be like your field distance that you got hit the taser at? What's what you got hit? Or like from neck to neck?
The larger the spread, the more electricity going through your body and the more incapacitating it is.
Oh,
So ideally, yeah.
it's like you break the jaw.
And that's one of the risks, but
Yeah.
that's minor injury compared to. The thing about this is as well with the taser, if this person was holding a knife in their hand, the taser would not be the right option because through tests and studies and training, we know that if somebody's running at you with a knife, for you to draw your firearm and actually incapacitate them completely or even taser, your minimum distance, if you're very quick to react, would be 20 feet. If you're talking 15 feet or so, you're really putting yourself at risk. So if the knife was involved, a gun would have been the right force option. So all of these things, it just speaks to why we have to train, why we have to keep our equipment updated, why we have to keep our communications updated, and the review process that we go through after the fact. Because when this video goes worldwide, the scrutiny, people not going back on all the peripheral details causes for that confusion, and even some of the commentary online afterwards. Some people were saying, well, why did they have to shoot avoided? But you get those bizarre comments, but some of these individuals gain notoriety. And the other point on this was back in
Did any media or anything reach out at this?
we didn't, we were surprised. But one of the things you've heard about, one of our members being off with shoulder injury for months. This same individual was involved at a local hotel back in November of 2020. Remember? The members didn't use the taser. They took the 3 members that were available to get him under control. There was damage there, but it led to the member's injury, shoulder injury, that ended up with that member being off for a number of months at our expense. This individual, this is the second time dealing with him. This was a much more effective use of force than trying to strong arm somebody with multiple members and putting them all at risk.
Poor little man.
No, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Play stupid games, get stupid results.
So-
I don't like it. That's great. Hopefully you think twice before.
Before doing it again.
Or getting naked and running.
I'm pretty sure he's moved from the neighborhood.
I would hope.
But he still has family in the neighborhood, and now the family has to deal with all of that as well.
So we didn't see where they, so does he cuff them after that and then?
Actually, they restrain him, but they cuff him, but because we aren't gonna, we're trying to find a balance between medical assistance. So he was cuffed for a portion of it, but for a portion of the members were actually, but because we aren't gonna, we're trying to find a balance between medical assistance. So he was cuffed for a portion of it, but for a portion of the members were actually physically restraining him while EMS was doing their thing as well.
How long was he out? Minutes or seconds?
Well, the minute the taser stops, so the taser will run in 3-second cycles. So
Oh, I see.
after 3 seconds, you might be a little groggy.
Sad.
It doesn't take long to shake it off, but you can actually pull the trigger and run for another 3 seconds. We only recommended using it for as long as you have to. Or if you hold finger on the trigger, it'll keep going until the battery dies. But in our reviews, all of that data is captured on the device that's downloaded. And when the cert comes in, or whoever, even when our members do the reviews, they'll pull all that data and say, we know that the trigger was pulled once for 3 seconds, not held for 5.5 minutes, or
Right.
whatever the case may be. Yeah, so it's all of that data is available. I actually, even with it, when the taser's deployed, there's little planchettes that get fired out with the projectiles that have serial numbers that align with the cartridge. So if you collect those after the fact, you can say, yes, those are the planchettes from this cartridge that was assigned to this member. So,
Pretty thorough.
that,
Pretty thorough.
yeah, so I just thought, what an opportunity to show the commission kind of the finer details of some of these calls for service that actually happen on a fairly regular basis. But show you the whole scenario or the whole story. So this one just brought it together. So
Boy, that, the camera said the car was your time, but just how fast that was.
Yeah. Like before the other, you can see it in the car.
Yeah.
Was done.
when we, at some point, I'm sure we're going to be having some sort of discussion on body worn cameras, which will be huge budgetary expense. I don't think the government, federal or provincial government, is going to move away from that. Probably in the coming years, are probably pushing for body worn cameras.
Are you for for that or against?
I have, actually, I am for body worn cameras. My concern for some time now is the rules around the disclosure. How much do we have to disclose? How much don't we have to disclose? And there's a lot of questions around that. So we're not going to win cases at the end of the day.
Yeah, why?
Why is it if a member comes back to the office to have lunch or whatever, and they've turned off their camera? Or for instance, there's questions arise as to why was the camera on here, off there? We have people that are not part of the incident, just the general public that are saying, well, now I have access to that information. I was videotaped. And now I'm pointing you for that video because I was on it. How do we deal with all those peripheral
We
legal
don't have a
issues?
single consent. You don't need two-party consent in Canada. I think
Well-
Canada's single-party consent.
Your single party consent for video and audio, but when you're just catching, that's when it's a specific incident. So if I was investigating you or even you wanted to report me, it's to deal with a specific incident. But if we can't just videotape the general public necessarily and use we glean from that. That's why we can't have surveillance videos on Main Street in public areas all the time.
But I can.
You can,
I can.
police can, and the city.
But a private individual can put a camera anyway.
Maybe like a doorbell.
There are rules
Yeah,
on what you
yeah.
do with it, but yeah, the rules are much stricter. So that's why the whole talk, conversation about body worn video, I think, yeah, they're an excellent tool. And we find with public complaints, usually it gleans evidence that's in our favor, members' favor. So they, and if they don't, then
It would make everything.
it's just those rules of around disclosure and has access to that. And some of the storage issues when you're videotaping and gathering a lot of that data, rules about cloud storage, security, all of those things. But I think we're going to be going down that road.
Is there any other municipalities in Alberta? Yeah.
And actually, there's been a few studies, actually. Calgary did a study that because of all the issues, they decided not to go with body worn camera. And Edmonton went the same direction. And then Calgary, because of the number of internals they were having in certain investigations, and public scrutiny and criticism, they went and they've had body worn cameras for a couple of years now. And actually, the member that was killed at the end of December last year, that body worn camera unfortunately captured a lot of information inside the vehicle to identify the suspects and formulate a lot of the charges. So they're having successes through TINA. Tribal police started just last year, kind of waiting to see how that's going for them. And then Edmonton, the RCMP is rolling it out nationally, but they're starting in Nova Scotia and going to work their way across. But over the next 5 years, all RCMP. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure we're going to have to go down that road. But when we talk about it, it's going to be a big item. We may want to start figuring out our costs and putting money away into our research for that.
Well, you can see from that video how it could be completely protected of an officer. You know, like, you tell me what you would have done in that 3 seconds you had to operate with this big naked man coming at you. Or it's going to subject them to criticism. Like, it's kind of a double-edged.
Well,
You always second guess them.
take that man, let's say you go back to October or whatever, 2020, did that the first time. Let's say it's a female officer who's smaller in stature, and they go one-on-one with them. It's probably not gonna work out very well for our member.
But it's good that you bring that up, because when we do our review, it's what's called the reasonable officer response model. So it takes in all those factors. The size of the individual you're dealing with, because it could be a very small individual that is your suspect, frail individual, your environmental conditions. Is there a lot of, does this person have a lot of 6 people standing behind them that are chirping and could be a threat? And then on the member size, weapon systems that they're trained in, weapon systems available, and all of these other factors as well. Was there weapons involved? Wasn't there weapons involved? So as you go through that criteria, this has been developed over the years, and any law enforcement review board or research body, investigative bodies are going to look at that and the courts look at it is, were the officer's response is reasonable under the circumstances, giving all of these other considerations to those variables. And we train on that as well. So when you consider any force option, those are the things that you have to be going through your head. And if you don't instill that in somebody's psyche, that's when things start going sideways.
The situation I got asked from the US is very simple. In the US, even on night incidents, why did they shoot him in the leg? Why did they have to shoot him there? You have to limit, you have so little time. That's like, he's out thinking, well, I'm going to shoot him in the
We
leg.
qualify every year.
You
And
know?
if I ever try to shoot somebody in the arm,
Yeah,
so
I think it's,
when we shoot, it's a fatal, it's basically a last resort. And you shoot to kill. It's highest support, lethal force, and you only use lethal force if basically 80%. So you aim for here and trying to aim just here, whatever. If you see our targets, the best of shooters, it's not like TV.
24 seconds.
Yeah.
shoot him in the leg, yeah, okay.
I have to go,
Okay.
although I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the end of my presentation, unless there's any other questions. I just thought it was a great time to bring this stuff forward. Please
Yeah.
screening.
Let us know if you have to work like that.
I will. And that's in the middle of the White House, so I'll help my own. Yeah, today.
Okay,
Awesome.
I got that stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But at the same,
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to let you know that I have Sonia on speakerphone and that Edie had texted me, had an appointment this morning, but she'll be joining soon.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Judy.
Thank you.
Able to see that presentation, Judy, and participate in the conversation? Or like to hear the conversation about it?
Sorry,
Be able to see that video and hear the conversation?
it was really good. Thank you very kindly for sharing that. It was perfect.
I just find it interesting. This is the first, so even in this day and age, like I'm not on social media, but still, I would have thought someone.
Yeah.
Vintage.
Well, it only made it to social media for a few minutes, and then it was pulled because the content doesn't align with what's allowed on Facebook or some of the.
Standard guidelines.
Yeah, so
So Facebook.
so it was really shared individual to individual.
On Reddit. That's where I saw it. I mean, if I saw it somewhere.
Yeah. So there are certain sites you can go to, and but it was one where you got some of the comments about why they have to kill them. And those responses are from all the world.
I think so.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Chief. I think that was really good. We are down to the old business part of our agenda. So Alberta First Responder System Consoles upgrades, and we've already kind of,
Yeah.
yes.
I Are you going to address 7.2?
We're 6.1.
Oh,
To come.
I'm all over the page, so. I'm
Well,
trying to make
I don't know
sure.
why I jump all over the agenda when we put it on place, but when I just pick.
Maybe we should talk about how you'd like to do this.
I like this, I like to shake it up. All right, we've kind of had a preview on that, I think, on the updates.
Yeah, and actually, it hasn't been delivered yet, so still waiting, so, we'll just keep it on there, and once that system is actually here and running,
What's the new ETA? Or is there one?
it's like any other computer component,
Right on ship, still goes to China.
yes,
And they just shut down their docks again for another 7 days this week, so.
so, yeah. They're checking it.
That's a good answer.
So we do have on 6.2, we do have one vacancy. Judy's extended term will be up at the end of December. So we have one vacancy to fill with the commission. So an ad has been posted. I believe Jenny said you've already started receiving some resumes.
I have received one, yes. It's ran in the paper once. I could have it run again. Wish us to add, let me know when you'd like. I think the ad codes are over 60, yeah.
Is the cost of running the ad significant?
Yes. I can confirm the cost and let you know, but Ross had recommended that we only run it for a short time and not continuous, just gradually. But it is on the city's website right now.
So for our commission members, if you consider how you were tapped to become a commission member, you probably didn't see an ad in the paper and think, hey, I'll do that. So it's in your packet if you don't mind cutting and pasting it. Give some thought to sharing it out and about. Yes, Jen?
I've also got the legislative coordinator let me know that it will not be going for another term.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize it. So we have two members to replace.
Yes.
Okay.
Roll up the chain pretty quick here to be the senior member.
I know, it's
Boy.
you're moving up in the world now. So I think from the point of view of skill set, when we're looking, we definitely need to think about future leadership. We need to think about, some procedural ability and input. Definitely community representation. There is a skill matrix in our binder that's part of our policy and procedure if you want to just take a snoop at that, but just start giving some thought to what we're looking for. I don't know that we necessarily need people who have any kind of history in law enforcement. Sonia indirectly has been that, just being the spouse of a former member. I think she's always been able to come with a different perspective as a spouse. And I think that's been very helpful as well, but we don't necessarily have to have anyone with actual law enforcement. So just keep that about. I think resumes, you said middle of October we need. It would be the newly appointed city council after the election that would make that appointment.
I believe it goes to the end of October to.
Okay.
For your guys' recommendation.
Yes. Yeah, so generally the process is we review them, we make recommendations, and the mayor makes decisions. Sorry, what's that?
That new council's gonna go well on the plate, but there's.
That is a big intro. Hey, Ruben, that first meeting. Okay, so we've already taken care of 7.1, so that puts at 7.2, the crime severity index.
So this, we did get the crime severity index for 2020. So these are always a year behind. They're usually released in April, but this one was delayed, of course, due to COVID.
Can't get sick of that phrase.
Yeah, I know.
COVID.
I know. We'll blame, for the next 10 years, we'll be blaming things on COVID, but the long and the short of it is overall, in 2019, so the previous crime severity index, out of 300 communities over 10,000, larger the number, the better when you're looking at your standings. You're at 115, which for Alberta put us basically in a very desirable position for Alberta overall. For 2020, we actually gained, and we're at 153 as our CSI ranking, which is I think one of the highest ratings we've had past 5 years or so. We came up this morning, 20 points or so. So, very, very positive. And especially in Alberta, that still puts us in a very good position. Communities in Alberta.
Thanks. I was just actually scrolling through my electronic package. Was there a report that can be shared on that, or was it?
The only thing that I get is the ranking, so I didn't want to.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Usually there's a condensed version that comes to see.
You're always seeing.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a plan.
And really the one that we see, it's just dividing on this for and not comparing it to the rest of Canada.
Okay. We talked just before the meeting, we did talk a little bit about the fact that Minister of Culture and the Solicitor General, Minister Madhu, will be attending at the Lacombe Police Station on what month? August 25th at 10:30, and that the Police Commission members are welcome to attend. Just for a minute, no, Sonia, Commissioner Dyslake has confirmed she will attend, so we will have one representative. I understand Councillor Conniff will be there as well. I'm not able to come, and then the other members will take a look at their schedules and come if they're available. And what we'll do on a to-do for Jennifer is just forward these last AAPG report that does talk about some of the topical things that you might want to be prepared for with discussing with the minister. And it looks like here the point of his visit is just to check in on rural or policing issues in our community. What? Sure. Okay. Can we then just lay that to in camera then?
Yeah.
So we'll just so that's just more for the record for our minutes, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Item number 7.3, staff sergeant promotion process. So the chief has determined that it is time to create a permanent position of staff sergeant. It has been in our HR plan, and I don't think it has a major effect on budget because we've been temporary people in place for that. It's not an inspector position. It doesn't mean new positions. It's simply formalizing it. I'll let you tell us what you'd like to know on that.
Yeah, basically just an awareness that that position is competition is opening up. It's not an additional position. It's a quota position. What it does is Originally, there was an inspector's position under the chief, but I came in. We've been delaying putting in an inspector for oversight of sergeants and other areas to try and build some competencies from within the service and provide those opportunities for members internally. So I think we're at a stage that we can graduate someone up into a permanent staff sergeant, and then at some point in time that may turn into an inspector's position. But it will definitely provide support and guidance and support for our patrol sergeants and overseeing some of our specialized areas as well. Also, probably assign that person to a few more individual committees and some of their interactions with our external contracts they have as well. So it's compensating. They're already doing as well as a few extra tasks.
Any questions for the chief on that item?
And just in line with that, I guess we'll have cold interviews in early September. We have currently 3 applicants. We'll do the interviews and hopefully by the end of September have our selections completed. But I also opened up because Sergeant Cohat is officially retired August 30th. I've opened up a sergeant promotion position, which financially doesn't cost us anything. It's just filling a vacancy. And our crime reduction team, with the hiring of the 2 new members starting in October, will open up a competition for our vacant position for crime reduction teams. We've got a lot of things happening on the HR side and promotions, positions, selections. So very busy with that over the next month.
Chief, those 2 members that they offered their position to start on October 1st. Is that in? Is one of those positions going to fill the promotion to sergeant?
Build it. See, on the front product, and then internally some qualified promotion.
So you're not looking for another person. You're with these 2 new members coming on.
Yeah, other than those who are still on. Which is really good.
Did you have a question?
No, sorry.
No, just checking in, just so we have you.
Oh, good. Sometimes it sounds a little garbled for when people talk, but I think that's why Diane had a problem when she was trying to hear Ruben. It was sometimes when people, not you and the chief as much, but more on the sides, the voices are garbled, like they just come in cutting in and out a bit.
I think we have to do a better job of projecting, just knowing that we have people on speaker when we're speaking. So we'll try to, I'll try to get everyone to speak up.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, 7.5 was a new agenda item. I had just gotten an email from Maureen McKenzie, who is the executive assistant for community services. There's a Volunteers of Distinction celebration Thursday, September 16th. Now, when I read it, it looks like it's for members who are done serving, or is it for everybody? Okay, so for people who are at the end of their terms. So Judy, for sure, to me, that should be you.
No, actually, I've been to quite a few of them. I've been to most of them, actually. But I wasn't finished my term, and this would be for John Walker because it's for the previous year. So I wouldn't be recognized until 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well.
But anybody can go, because Greg and I have gone to all of them.
Okay,
Because in the invite, it says, members of council wish to express appreciation to all City of Lacombe committee.
Yeah.
But in her email, it seems very convoluted.
yeah,
Yes.
What is it, that's, and that's library, board, all of those, so
Okay.
we're done, we'll get back, so this thing is, John.
okay.
And Judy, those individuals that are receiving a award or recognition, they get invited directly as well, do they not?
Yes, they do, because last time I went, the last one that they had, Luke Banas was being recognized, and they wanted me to write a little write-up about him, and I had sent it in to her. And Greg and I attended so that we could recognize his work that he had put in, so. So yeah, John Walker should receive one, and if not, then I'll make sure he has. I will check with him. And it's nice when the commissioner goes, present commissioner goes to show support to the person that is leaving, that has left.
All right. Moving on then, for information, report's been included, just the interim advisory board. So, you know, depending on how much work you're doing, keeping up with or wanting to keep up with some of the province's research and movement into changing to policing it. This is 7.6. Oh, my apologies. I know Elaine, Commissioner Willett Larson wanted us to consider whether we should be adding a land acknowledgement to the beginning of our meetings. And when we spoke about it informally last, my suggestion was certainly seems like a good idea. We put it to the council, and I asked her to see if she could research just the proper respectful wording for that. So she asked us to add that to the agenda, and I'm assuming what we're looking for is, I think, just input or content, but we can certainly have that added to our formal agenda. Just opening that up for discussion.
And with the acknowledgement, I'm doing a special meeting for a conference or session. That's usually when you have the acknowledgements, but when it's a regular standing meeting, which commission meeting is just like a council meeting, you typically don't see the acknowledgements at those regular meetings. It's more of a special. So I don't think that our council is unique to that. So
Yeah.
as far as protocols go, I'm not sure what the proper protocol is
And
for them to do all that.
I don't either. And so I think maybe because Commissioner Willett Larson did have to leave that, and I thought she might try to get back to our meeting. So I might just defer it to the end of the meeting and just, it's her topic for discussion. We can ask her maybe to do some research into that protocol. So if we can table that as, I guess, turn it into old business, into the discussion about the land acknowledgement. Unless we manage.
Sorry to interrupt. Edie can't find the link for the invite. Jennifer, is there any way that you can send it to her, or did we get her email going now? Sorry. Get all the communication through Texas.
If you just.
Yeah, if you go participants, which the two, yep.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, there it is.
Then you can share it.
If you go down, you can find it.
Yeah, if you X out of that. Click on here.
Knew there was
Oh, that didn't work.
She's in.
Oh, it's calling.
Stop clicking. Have to,
No, that was earlier. But the invite. Ask her to join again. Keep sleeping.
And it calls.
Is she on Teams, by the way, too?
Judy, is she on Teams right now?
I'll just ask her.
she's on.
Yeah, she said the other one said invalid, so I just said, are you on Teams now?
Hi, everyone.
We're back.
Is she on?
If she clicks one of the old links from one of the past meetings, it should bring it in.
Should be the phone number.
Let me just see if I can just find the meeting invite and send it.
I had Sonia on speakerphone, but she had to go to her appointment, so she got off the phone. We were just on my actual phone on speaker, so she could hear the meeting.
Did you resend it, Jim?
I'm the only problem is this is on the city's one and not my own personal one. So I can see if I can log on to Teams. This one.
Unless you just copy the info
I-
from the actual meeting.
I can log out. And get this.
Cheaper, you guys expecting anything with the concert up at the golf course? This week?
We'll monitor.
I was sneaky little somebody traffic cop waiting for ladies to leave the golf tournament last night. Or ladies night last night, hanging out by the chamber office.
I've seen that thing. It's
That's a
Coming down the
sneaky
hill,
little
it's like-
spot.
just blends into the trees.
Oh, I know, it's really dark there. I wish we
That's
put a
not the
traffic
first
light
time
up.
you've seen them.
It is, but I don't go that direction that far. Okay, listen, we gotta keep going. At some point, joining the meeting at 2011 where we need to.
Yeah.
So information 8.1, we've already talked about that a little bit, just in terms of it there for your information, there for your review. I didn't plan to deal with it directly. We do have some in-camera items to attend to. But before we do, I'll just confirm our next meeting at September 16th will again be here at the police station. So that, I think that's basically until further notice, until chamber office renovations are done. So could I get a motion in camera, Cam?
I will move.
All in favor? There we go. 10:38, Jennifer. Thank you.